Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Happy Monday. My name is Caroline Doyle, and these are your 11:30 a.m. BCIT news headlines. Selkirk College says it's closing one of its 3 campuses in Nelson, BC at the end of its academic year. The college says this comes after an unprecedented and sudden drop in tuition revenues. Selkirk College is among multiple institutions that have been affected financially after the federal government decreased the number of permits for international students. Pistachios. Some pistachio products have been recalled in BC by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency due to a possible salmonella contamination. 3 companies in Vancouver, Premier Nuts Enterprise, Aria Market, and Lena Market have been asked to recall identified products sold between August 28th and October 11th. The agency encourages anyone who has fallen ill from consuming recalled products to contact their healthcare providers. BC Forest Minister Pavi Parmar says the BC forest industry workers need help now. Parmar wants to put pressure on Ottawa to speed up the distribution of the $1.2 billion allocated for softwood lumber industry support. Parmar says BC workers deserve the same treatment as workers in Ontario. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada says Hello Ferry struck a humpback whale in English Bay. Hello Ferry says their bridge team immediately initiated evasive actions and executed a crash stop maneuver. It was reported that the whale swam north after being struck, but there are no additional details released about its condition. Diwali, the 5-day Festival of Lights, begins today. Our reporter Thomas Adams shares more.
Local businesses are preparing for Diwali. The Festival of Light will be celebrated around Metro Vancouver this week, bringing together people of many different backgrounds. The celebration has become a staple to the Vancouver area, with many organizations taking part. The Vancouver Canucks have designed a new Diwali jersey, as well as the Vancouver Public Library hosting an event on Tuesday. Many local Indian restaurants will be hosting people for the celebration. A concentrated area of the celebration being Burnaby's 6th Street. The businesses will each be hosting their own events throughout the week and expect a large participation from the community. Thomas Adams, BCIT News.
On October 28th, a meeting is set to take place 3 months after a BC Supreme Court judge ruled that Cowichan tribes have the right to 7.5 square kilometers of land in Richmond. Richmond Mayor Malcolm Brody hopes the upcoming meeting in Richmond will bring more information to property owners affected by this ruling. Conservative Party of BC leader John Rutstad says the question of private property ownership and Indigenous rights must be answered by the Supreme Court. Brody disagreed with the involvement of the Supreme Court, but it says the decision needs to be appealed. The Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, says he understands the significance of this decision and he is working closely with the City of Richmond regarding the appeal. Now an update from the Bank of Canada. A new Bank of Canada survey shows the U.S. tariffs are still on the minds of businesses and consumers. Craig Lord from the Canadian Press explains why.
The Bank of Canada's Business Outlook survey released this morning shows lingering questions about the trade dispute are holding many firms back from expanding their payrolls. The central bank's broad measure of business confidence has improved a bit from the second quarter of the year, but remains well below historical averages. Despite most exporters having tariff-free access to the United States, many firms in the steel and aluminum industries say they doubt that overseas markets will make up for lower U.S. sales. The Bank of Canada also released its consumer survey today, showing most Canadians feel a bit better about their financial health despite lingering tariff concerns. Craig Lord, The Canadian Press, Ottawa.
Now in international news, U.S. President Donald Trump commuted the sentence of former Republican Congress George Santos. ABC's Rachel Scott has more.
A congressional investigation found that he even used campaign funds on Botox, designer goods. The president commuting his sentence, when he announced this on social media, he provided some sort of reasoning for this, saying at least Santos had the courage, conviction, and intelligence to always vote Republican.
Santos is not required to pay back the victims. Now in weather, it is a little rainy, so we are in the forecast for today for rainfall in the afternoon with a high of 11 and a low of 9. I'm Caroline Doyle. Those were your 11:30 news headlines. Thank you for joining me.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's. This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Single biggest democratic institution in our society are unions, in terms of being able to come together and convene meetings where we're able to debate, discuss, and vote on, and then implement decisions that we've made.
For BCIT News, I'm Cohen Sassman.
And I'm Gabe Liesi. You're listening to the Picking a Scab podcast, where Cohen and I will peel back the layers of unions.
It's loud and historic. Outside many government offices across BC, thousands of workers are on strike. They're members of the BCGEU, one of the province's largest unions. Behind every picket line is a bigger story. What do unions really mean for workers today?
Some say unions are the backbone of workers' rights, Cohen. Others say they're outdated and even restrictive. Today, we're going to be exploring what unions mean in 2025 through two stories. One worker, a truck driver named Gordon Davidson, and a Capilano University student, Nico Williamson, who decided enough was enough.
So we recently back in March, we got certified by the Labor Relations Board to join the Move Up Union. And this month we got a transition agreement finalized, and we will be getting our wage increase at the end of the month, hopefully. Overall, it's been like a 3-year process.
It was the result of years of quiet organizing and a realization that student workers were being left out.
And it just became very clear that we were not considered within it, and we either fall through the cracks or fill the cracks.
For many, this wasn't just about fairness, it was also about survival.
There were several student employees that were thinking about quitting their jobs because they couldn't afford to survive on the wage and hours that they were getting at CapU. So this means that they can continue working the jobs they like without needing to starve or miss rent.
Many would have backed down in the face of adversity, Cohen, and the university did indeed try to complicate the process, but Nico and her team refused to back down.
Basically, they added 40 employees to the list that they never intended on allowing to unionize in order to make the list bigger, hoping that we fail, but we didn't. We grinded, we got those extra cards signed, resubmitted before the deadline.
And while Nico was building a union from scratch, Gordon Davidson was coming back to one after seeing both sides of the trucking industry.
Came from a union company to bulk fuel hauling, which was non-union, and now to these guys, which are union.
For Gordon, that contract isn't just paper, it's actual protection.
So with a union, there's those protections where, if those things are asked of you, you say no, and there's weight behind that. So I left the union job that I was at to work at this bulk fuel haul, because I was promised that I would guaranteed $90,000 a year to go up from there, to earn $100,000+ a year. When I looked at what I earned, I was closer to 74, right? And I did at a point go in and talk to the terminal manager. I was like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I was promised. And what I got told is you have to take this extra load or whatever. And that's, where you start getting pushed in your hours of service.
In fact, Cohen, he's not looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. He realizes that unions aren't perfect, but says he'd still rather have one than not.
They negotiate 2, 3, 5-year contracts, and it's fixed. So if things happen within those 5 years, and like wages in the industry kind of go up beyond what the contract does, then you don't kind of catch up with that till it comes to renegotiating the contract.
To understand the bigger picture, we reached out to Paul Finch, president of the BCGEU, the union leading the strike we heard at the top of this episode.
The number one purpose why we exist is to create a democratic organization to represent the interests of working people. And the number two reason we exist, of course, is to secure the best possible wages and benefits for our members.
Finch made it clear and said that unions are still crucial in a day and age where inflation has outpaced wages.
Unions are critical at a base level to ensure that people are paid fairly for the work they do.
Yep.
But more importantly than that, on top of that, we need to be able to make collective decisions in our society on a democratic basis, and that's not a simple thing.
For Nico, a union meant a living wage and a voice. For Gordon, it meant protection from unsafe demands. And for Paul Finch, it's about democracy itself.
Interestingly enough, though, Cohen, as much as union membership has gone down overall, union membership in the public sector has actually gone up since the late 1990s. It was at 74.5% roughly in 1997 in the public sector, and it's jumped to 76.7% 2 years ago.
And do you have any numbers on the private sector? Does the private sector, is it going up or down?
It's interesting. The private sector is actually going down. It's going in the exact opposite way. It was 21%, just over 21% in 1997, and in 2023 it fell to just above 15%.
So it sounds like government workers, they are becoming more unionized as time goes on, but private workers, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, and in fact, I spoke with a professor from SFU, Dr. Mark Lear, who can give context as to why this is.
My name is Mark Lear. I'm a historian, and my specialty is the study of labor and left-wing movements. The case that the law has been changed in BC and in other provinces, and federal law has changed to actually make it more difficult to form unions than it was in the 1970s. So it's also more difficult now to negotiate that first collective agreement.
It was very interesting because it's one of the things that he said was union membership has gone down overall, and yet people are still very willing to strike and are still very willing to fight for what they feel is what they feel they are owed, despite the fact that the BC government has actually made it more difficult, legally speaking, to strike and eventually form a union.
And have you noticed that there's any dangers to possibly signing a union card?
That's one of the things that I spoke about with Nico, and I was expecting there to be more hesitancy amongst the students at the university, but they were more than willing to sign union cards and put their names out there, and were just willing to fight for what they believed in. And I think that's one of the reasons why the union drive was so successful, really.
It sounds like if you don't need a union, you don't think about it. But if you need a union, it's life or death.
This episode was produced by Cohen Sassaman and Gabe Liesi from BCIT Radio. Special thanks to Nico Williamson, Gordon Davidson, Paul Finch, and Mark Lear.
For BCIT News, I'm Cohen Sassaman.
And I'm Gabe Liesi. Thank you for listening.
I really do think that, the unions are there to protect the workers, and I believe that companies should be unionized because they do take advantage of employees.